where did you DJ? Like, how long have you been DJing? If you don't...
1989.
89? Okay.
New York City, a lot of underground clubs. Good nights at the Limelight, the Roxy, Mars.
The Limelight.
A lot of loft parties in Brooklyn.
Okay. And can you just give me your name, where you're from, how many kids you have, and their ages?
Yeah, Jeff. Last name is Mayer.
Jeff Mayer.
Where am I from? Oldwick, New Jersey. Ironically, we're on the Delaware in New York right now, but it's about 2 hours south of this.
Okay.
In New Jersey. So I grew up in the country in New Jersey on a tree farm, which is how I got into BMX. Not living near anybody, going into the woods with a shovel, and I met one of my friends in school was a BMX racing. This is like 1982, and got me into BMX, and I think I went into the woods and never came out. Built ramps, built jumps, built trails, you name it.
Wow, that's crazy. So, and how did you get like notoriety and become like sponsored by a bicycle
I think, you know,
company?
After years of riding, a lot of friends telling me I should enter contests, you know, found the local competitions that were far and few back in the 80s, entered those, did well, and had fun, and one led to the other, and then I went to the national competitions. This is pre-internet, so, you know, getting sponsored back then meant you had to be in the magazines.
Yes.
And I think a couple photos I got in some big magazines back then. Freestyling magazine was the big one. Ironically, Spike Jones was the photographer for them back then, who took the photos. And, you know, sponsors see you and they see your placing, and it's how you landed a sponsor back then.
Oh, wow. Now, you said your son was a pro skater?
He's 15 and going pro soon.
Okay.
He's on his way. He's a sponsored skateboarder for years now. Originally, Shut New York City Skates sponsored him, which were the founders of Zoo York. Okay. And he recently, in the past 2 years, on his own, got sponsored by Andrew Reynolds, found him of Baker Skateboards in California. So he rides for Baker Skateboards, New Balance sneakers, Noah Clothing. He's got a few other co-sponsors.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you find challenging as a father to support your son on this endeavor to be a pro skater?
Probably knowing the risks he's going to have to take as he gets better, and keeping, you know, growing as a skater, and knowing, you know, what he's going to put himself through physically and the injuries that will come with, you know, the sport.
Okay. And
past that, you know, we've always been behind him on anything he was into, so he's always had the support with what he wants to pursue. And me not ever being a skater, but always had a skateboard in the house. I think he got on his board at 1 and rolled around the house on it, and then by 2 he was pushing himself down the sidewalk in Brooklyn and never turned around. He just kept going.
That's cool.
So he's been doing this for almost, you know, 14 years, and he's on his way to becoming pro.
Did you get like nervous about like him
like
falling and hitting his head? Or
of course. I mean, I grew up riding vert ramps
okay.
in the woods. Much different than doing street skating in New York City.
Gotcha.
But he's learning a balance. I'm trying to teach him right now a balance between pushing too hard and knowing how to push enough, but without getting as, you know, wrecked as you can get. Because some of the stuff, you know, skating is a different. I think it's a lot different than a BMX'er, because BMX, I always found you have handlebars and pedals. Skating, you just have your feet.
Okay. I said when I was skating, though, I always felt like I got more injured on bicycles personally, and I always felt like I could bail on a skateboard.
Yeah.
But I understand what you're saying. You want him to grow, but you don't want him to overextend himself to an injury.
I mean, I know it's inevitable and it's part of what it takes, but as a father, you know, you just don't want to see your kid getting hurt, but it is part of growing.
Yeah,
and I just want to teach him the boundaries of, you know when to take it easy and say, I'm going to come back to that trick another day.
No, that's awesome.
So, you know, he's learning, and he knows when he gets to a point where he's like, all right, I'm going to come back after, you know, 3 hours of trying to trick, and I'll come back another day fresh.
Okay. Were your parents supportive with you doing BMX?
My mother was pretty much behind me. Stepfather didn't really have an interest. My mother was pretty supportive on bringing me around back then to the competitions, yeah.
Okay.
And understood the risks, and she knew, I think, in the end that I had a good head on my shoulders and I'd wind up figuring it out and not getting destroyed.
Yes.
Which I did. I found a balance of not getting too injured and still growing.
Okay. And then when did you get into DJing?
At the end of my BMX career, I think I was in my 20s and I was starting to get a little more injured trying to keep up with what you had to do at the time. And not even keep up, but as you get older, even in your 20s, from when you're 15, 16, your body changes. And I broke my knee doing a dirt session somewhere in Pennsylvania. And at the time met these guys from New York City that were working at a club in New York called Mars. And they brought us to the club. And I walked in and never turned around. It's when I was introduced to DJing, and I thought it was the coolest thing. And I taught myself how to mix 2 records, and to this day, I still play vinyl.
That's awesome.
So I got into it to probably replace the BMX adrenaline.
Gotcha. And do you worry? Well, you did say you do worry a little bit about your son's future. Are you trying to push him into any kind of music or anything? You're just letting him find his own path?
Never pushed him in anything other than doing what he believes in and is passionate about. So I told him recently, you're growing up around someone with a vinyl collection, turntables, and all that stuff. Maybe one day you'll get into it. He's so focused on his skateboarding.
Take it easy.
Thank you. He doesn't have time for the other, but I think as he gets older, he'll probably get into it. I ironically am mostly a deep house DJ, but he was into old school hip hop when he was like 3, found it on the iPad. So I've been building with him a collection of old school hip hop that is his, and he plays around with that occasionally, but
okay.
We'll see where he goes with that.
No, that's awesome that you're like letting him find his own music and
Yeah.
not trying to shove him into anything. What do you think is like the most non-dad thing about you, and what do you think is the most dad thing about you?
Non-dad. Probably treating we have one son, treating him more like a friend than a son. Sometimes not knowing when to say no, you know what I mean, has been the hardest thing. Sometimes you have to be that parent where you say no. And we're lucky we raised him where we don't have to say it a lot because he's very respectful and kind, and he listens usually on the first call. But yeah, when it comes time to like telling him no, has been the tricky part.
And what do you think is the most dad thing about you?
Loving spending as much time with him since he's been born, and knowing that my wife and I are responsible for his outcome up until a certain point, probably where we're at now. We've raised him for 15 years the best we could, and been very honest with him about the world and people, and that we're living in wild times with the social media and the internet, and to balance that out with the physical, which he does through his skateboarding, and not get too lost into the game and social internet world.
No, absolutely. That's I think a challenge that we all have as parents. And is there any pitfalls as a parent who has a son who's trying to become pro skater that you worry about and try and steer your kids away from?
Ironically, when I went pro in BMX, when we were riding, we did these series which became the X Games, but before that it was called the Two Hip King Avert series. And no one cared what place they got. We were there to hang out and ride. I competed up against and I'm friends to this day with Matt Hoffman and Ron Wilkerson, all the big pros. But everyone knew who was getting first, who was getting second, and out of 100 entries, if you placed in the top 10, you were good. I think nowadays there's more pressure on people to be number one, and that's all that matters. And how many followers you have on Instagram or TikTok is more important than having a good crew of friends that are cool with you and don't care how good of you are as a skater or how good you are as a biker. I think we need to get back to that place where kids aren't judging other kids on their followers and just interacting with each other. So I guess my worry would be is I think a lot of kids now are just so zoned out with this digital, it's taken away the actual well-being of them just being children and having friendships and not, I see my son, he struggles with making friends his age because kids his age all want, I want to be sponsored. Why are you sponsored? Why? It's not about, like, he doesn't skate to be sponsored. He skates because he loves it. So I think a lot of people are doing stuff for the likes, not for the passion.
No.
I think Denzel Washington said it a few years ago or a year ago on Instagram where when we were growing up, if you had 10 people that liked what you did, you were cool with it. Now you have to have 16,000 people click like for you to feel like you've impressed somebody.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I'm always trying to find a balance with my podcast. So,
Yeah.
like, I've been trying to find a balance of, like, the original intro was a lot more aggressive and it scared a lot of people away. So now I've altered that so it's a little bit more palatable. So I'm trying to figure out a happy balance myself, and I think that's a challenge that not only is a young child's going to have, an adult's going to have. So, I got into this because I'm doing a job that isn't, my passions. So I have a job that I take care of my family.
A job is a job, and having the passions, I think, and that's the other thing I try to teach Luca is always keep skating for fun. Don't take it too serious. Once it becomes a job, it's no more fun. And I think that's, along with getting injured as a pro BMX'er, is when you go on tour and you have to do a show every day, there's a point where it's like you don't feel like you're doing it for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, don't get me wrong, to be touring and getting paid and doing shows to inspire and promote whatever was the biggest gift I've ever had of having that opportunity. So I think there's a balance, and I think it's good to have a job that you can make a living at, and then you have your passions that you get to have that outlet to express yourself and not rely on that, in life. If you're lucky enough, you can meld the two together, and I think we've kind of done that with our children's program back in Brooklyn, where we teach kids how to bike, skate, and read. But again, it's a job, so it's it gets to a point where you feel like you're doing the same thing with kids, but I know we're helping kids, so it always makes me feel good seeing kids leave our space confident and stoked.
And what's the name of that program?
It's called Bikes, Boards, and Books. Bikes,
Boards, and Books.
Yep.
Very cool. I'll put the links in the notes and
very cool.
Help you out as much as I can.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Look, it's all about balance, right?
Yes. And ultimately, if there's one thing that you could change for your kid's future without any regulations, without any attachments, what would you change for your son?
It's knowing he's going to grow up in a world that's going to be okay, where he's we're not going to be in a land where, and I don't mean this country, I mean this whole world, a place you can be and you'll have a job and you can make money and you can live freely, in a safe place.
Yeah, I think we all want that.
I think so too. I think a lot of people want that.
Yeah. And ultimately, are you happy?
Yeah, I count my blessings every day that I get to work with kids. I would never have guessed my BMX career and music career would come full circle, and I'd be working with kids for a living, and be sitting on this deck at my record spot up here on the Delawares. What could you ask for more? So very blessed. Work hard. Hard work is worth it. I think you've got to put in to get out. No shortcuts.
No, there is no shortcuts.
I think for the real gratification, you've got to put in to get out. I think a lot of people think. I think I see the younger generation these days, even older than my son, 20-somethings. You can get there without doing the work, and I don't think that that's true. Maybe you can get there quickly, and it seems like you're there, but I think you have to put in. I think everything's balanced. You got to put in a lot of hard work for the results. You got to have good and bad to be happy. No one's living a real life just pretending to be happy. It doesn't exist, I don't think.
No, I agree. What really made me want to interview you, as I was you said that here at Watch Your Step Records that you do a once a month show, and that's what I do, a once a month show.
Yeah.
And I wish I could do more, and the demand is greater than I can do, but
It's a lot of work.
it's a lot of work, and anytime I push too hard, I ultimately fall on my face because I'm,
Pace yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
And,
You know, look, once a month's better than none a month.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate
it,
your
man.
honesty.
Thank you.
Thank you.